Hello friends, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to a very exciting video because this is a celebratory video in honor of reaching 8,000 new friends here on this page. I decided to do my first ever Q&A. I made a post on the community tab on here asking folks if they had any questions regarding slow living, country living, my witchcraft practice, my art business, anything personal, health, anything life related. I'm an open book, and I was very excited and glad to see that so many folks have an interest in my life and also have so many questions regarding what I do, whether it's for YouTube, illustration, witchcraft. I was a little bit scared to make that post because in my head I was like, no one's going to have any questions regarding anything. And I'm so glad that I pushed past through those thoughts and I made that post because it made me so excited that folks are just interested. And also it gives you guys an opportunity to get to know me better. And for me, that is very important because I truly feel like that is what creates community, is getting to know each other and for you guys to know me outside of just making videos. So I had a goal to reach 8,000 subscribers and we have reached it. I had set that goal to hopefully reach 8,000 subscribers by the end of this year. It is August and we have made it to 8,000 subscribers. It feels so surreal. It feels amazing. There's nothing like finding your community or like-minded individuals that share the same passions as you. Needless to say, I'm very grateful for this community. I have a handful of questions here that I went ahead and saved from everyone that commented on my community post. I went ahead and divided the questions into categories considering what was being asked, relatively the same or the most. So I divided into questions that are more personal, questions relating to books, questions relating to country living, questions relating to witchy or spiritual practices, and finally questions relating to my art, to my business, to YouTube, to writing, all those kind of things that I am involved with. This is going to be a very chatty video. I am going to try and keep this under 1 hour. Hopefully I can do that. Let's just jump into the questions, starting off with personal questions. The first question says, I am also Latina and would like to know where you are from and what was your childhood like and did it influence who you are today? Congratulations. Thank you so much. As many of you guys know, I am a first generation daughter. I am Mexican American. I am the eldest daughter of 4 siblings. Whether you are Mexican American or another nationality, you know that being a first generation, second generation, third, whatever it might be, can absolutely be very complicated and very hard. In my case, my parents came to this country without knowing the language, without documentation of sorts that can help them have a steady job, that can help them have access to resources. Because they didn't have any of that, of course, we were faced with many struggles. And I, as the eldest daughter, had a lot of responsibility at such a young age, especially having to look after my younger siblings. There's a lot of hard work that goes into being the eldest daughter to undocumented parents. I love my parents, bless their hearts, and they did the best that they could with the resources that they had, but it was very hard. I feel like I had to grow up very fast. I was exposed to a lot of, I suppose, adult responsibilities at such a young age. And though now as an adult, I can see that for what it is, I can also acknowledge how much that experience has made me who I am today. I am a very passionate person. I am someone who does not quit until she reaches her goals. My parents always instilled in my siblings and I how we have access to so many resources by being here in this country. And though now I take that sentiment with a grain of salt, because though some of that could be true, I also know how hard still people who look like me, people who come from the same backgrounds as me, still have their limited resources. I've taken away from that sentiment that my parents always shared with my siblings and I, to never lose hope, to never give up on your dreams, to fight for what you believe in, to love deeply. As many undocumented parents come here or family members come to a new country seeking a better living situation, they come with a heart full of hope. They come with big dreams, with so much passion, and they are faced with oftentimes having to work, if not even more harder than your average person. So though I like that sentiment and I believe in it, I acknowledge how hard that sentiment can still be for someone who is a first generation person like me, but also I value it for the lesson that it has taught me as a first generation person and growing up in this country. So yes, I would say that my childhood very much influenced who I am today, both the hardships and the beautiful growth and lessons and memories that I've been able to create here as a Mexican American woman, because my parents were undocumented. And I say were because thankfully about 5 years ago we were able to get my parents' paperwork situated, and so now they are residents, thankfully. And I do acknowledge that that's not the story for so many of us who have parents who are undocumented. I still have family members who have been here for decades and they have not been able to get their proper documentation to be able to be here without having to fear for their lives. So I will say that my family has been very lucky in that regard, especially in today's world with what we're seeing with all the ICE raids, which by the way have been happening not just recently, but forever. I actually was born in Southern California next to the Mexican border. So I was born in San Diego and right next to it is the Tijuana TJ border. So I grew up around there and I know firsthand how scary it can be to fear for your life. In my case, fearing for my parents' life, who were constantly in fear because it was normal to just see ICE trucks rolling around everywhere, especially living so near the Mexican border. That was a huge reason why we moved up to Northern California. One of my happiest memories from being a kid that I truly feel has reflected on me now as an adult, which there are so many by the way, but this one is just one that is so prominent in my life now, is that I grew up in flea markets. My parents have always sold in flea markets. They have been resellers. They have been big yard sellers. And that is how my siblings and I were raised. We were raised in flea markets. My parents would sell all kinds of stuff, and that is how I was raised. They have always been very self-starters, very much, I'm gonna run my own little business, because not only is that the only thing I can do here, because it's not like it's that easy to go and apply for a job considering that you don't have proper documentation here. That was my parents' case, so they would rely solely on street vending, on going to flea markets and reselling stuff. So I feel like that aspect of being such a self-starter and wanting to have your own business per se has been very much something that I always admired about my parents and something that I always wanted to pursue on my own. So I do see that being reflected into my life. So yeah, that is a little bit about where I'm from and how my childhood was like. I hope that answers your question. The next question says, hello, do your tattoos have meaning? If so, what, and do you plan to get more? I have several tattoos. I think I lost count how many I have. I want to say I probably have 10 maybe, or a little bit more than 10. I'm not sure, either 10, 12, somewhere around there. I am also a firm believer that not all your tattoos have to have some profound meaning, though some of mine do. Others I just got because I simply like the design. One of my favorite tattoos that I have is actually this little lavender bundle here. This is actually a sister tattoo that I got with my two younger sisters. We each have a little lavender bundle. We got this because we grew up with my mom always planting lavender in her home. She always had some sort of lavender bush growing in her garden. I also have a butterfly tattoo here. I love butterflies. I love butterflies and hummingbirds. Another favorite tattoo that I have is this. Let me see if you guys can see that. It is this Adelita tattoo. If you guys don't know what an Adelita is, they were Mexican soldaderas, some Mexican soldiers who fought in the Mexican Revolution, and they contributed to the success of the Mexican Revolution. I just find their stories so inspiring, so motivating, so heroic, especially during this time when women were only subjected to being at home and caring for their children. You didn't really hear about women warriors during this time. So in honor of the Adelitas, I got a tattoo, sort of a symbol for me to remind me of my own strength. I also have a mandala flower here that needs some desperate shading. Yeah, that's a whole story of why that happened. And then I have a Hamza hand. So Hamza hand is what they call, I suppose, the hand of God, or the hand against evil eye, which in my culture is like the mal ojo. It's kind of like a symbol to protect you against bad vibrations or someone giving you what they call the bad eye. I also have a little hand hand with a crystal ball with the little snake swirling around the hand. This, I love it so much because it's in honor of my practice as a divinator, as someone who works with the spirit realm, as someone who loves divination. Something about this also reminds me of my great-grandmother and my grandmother who also worked with divination. They were big tarot readers. I actually inherited some of their tarot cards, which I would love to actually get tattooed on me, or at least a tarot card tattooed on me. My great-grandmother and my grandmother both have been big tarot readers. That definitely sparked my own curiosity with divination and reading tarot cards. I am so grateful that I got to inherit their tarot cards. I would love to get more tattoos. As I mentioned, I would love to get maybe a tarot card as well as a hummingbird. Hummingbirds are very just symbolic in my journey, but I don't have anything planned at the moment that is kind of like at the back of my list right now. There's so many things happening in my life right now that I'm not even thinking about tattoos, but I do love the idea of getting one soon. And the last question under personal says, congratulations. I would love to know if there are other Latinas that have inspired your journey other than family members. Again, congratulations. Your videos are truly inspiring and bring me peace. That is so sweet. And thank you so much. Thank you for this question as well. There is absolutely a handful of amazing other Latinas who have influenced my journey as a first generation Latina outside of just it being family members. Just to backtrack a little bit, I am huge in spirituality, as many of you guys know. I am also huge in decolonizing. I am huge in healing the female archetype, healing generational trauma. So when I first started that journey, one of the first ones who really influenced that and nourished that aspect of me to connect with my female rage, I suppose, was Sandra Cisneros. I discovered their poetry collection. Not only did that collection of poetry really made me feel seen as a first generation Mexican American daughter, but it also helped me connect with my femininity. As I mentioned, I did grow up really fast, so I feel like I lost touch with that soft part of me. Another huge book that I loved dearly was Women Who Run with the Wolves by Doctora Clarissa Pinkola Estes. I love that book so much. I actually love rereading that book every year just as a reminder to connect to the female archetype and all of its variations, whether it's soft energy, wild energy, that anger and furious energy. That book is just amazing and it absolutely changed my life in so many ways. I honestly feel that if you are someone who wants to connect to themselves on a deeper level and truly understand the essence of their voice, their body, their essence, read Women Who Run with the Wolves. I have never felt so much more magical in my life than when I read that book. I would love to explore other books that Doctora Clarissa Pinkola Estes has written. I haven't yet, but that's definitely on my to-do list because that book really changed my perspective about myself, my body, how I present myself to the world, how I want to feel seen, my morals, my spiritual compass. That was really such a spiritual awakening for me, that book. Another book that really opened my world up as a first generation daughter was Borderlands by Gloria Ansaldúa, I believe. That book really laid out flat the first, second, third generation perspective for me. I felt so seen, I felt so understood, and I felt like a lot of what I was navigating as not only being a first generation, but the eldest daughter, I feel like so much of what I was questioning and experiencing was validated through that book, especially because the author talks about growing up around the Texas-Mexico border, which for me was the same, but in California. I do feel like a lot of the verbiage is a little outdated in that book though, but overall, I feel like the theme and the message really resonated with me and it helped heal something in me that I just really needed. I'm actually going to pop a picture here of some of the books that have guided me and really helped me connect to myself. Some authors are Latina, but there are other authors from different walks in life that are not, that I learned from, that I grew with, whose words really impacted my life for me to be the person that I am today. Okay, so moving on to books. First question is, congratulations, Kim. Question, what are some of your favorite poetry books and authors? thank you so much. So for the sake of not making this video super long, I'm going to pop a picture here of some of my favorite poetry books and also some of my favorite authors. All of these authors are some of my favorite. When I first started getting into poetry and I first started discovering how much I love the language of poetry, these were some of the books and authors that really opened me up to the world of poetry. I just love the language. I just love how honest and bare these poems are. I love how truthful they feel. These became big staples in my life when I was navigating the world of poetry, and they really helped inspire and shape my own writing style as well. If you're someone who's trying to get into poetry or are curious about just reading poetry, I highly recommend it. Poetry has done such wonders for my spirit. It has healed so many aspects of my life, especially when you feel you can't put words to certain events in your life. Poetry has always been that comforting feel for me, that you feel seen and validated. Since fall is coming soon, what are some books and movies that you feel represent fall perfectly? Thank you so much for your question. It is no secret that I love fall so deeply. I resonate with fall. I love the cozy ambiance and the energy that fall brings into a space, and I feel the same way about fall books and fall movies. So I went ahead and took pictures of some of the books that I own, that I have read, that I feel encompass fall so well. I love these books so much. Any of these books have given me that feeling that fall is for me, which again is warm, cozy, comforting, safe, as well as aspects of eeriness and scary, mysterious, a little bit creepy. Those are all things that I love about fall. I love how there's a balance in fall that is comforting, but also there's like this eeriness, this mysteriousness to the season that makes you just crave more and more. So these books here definitely have some aspects of that, in my opinion. And these books are going to be anywhere from graphic books to middle grade books to YA adult books. I read a range of different genres. I love a good middle grade book as much as I love a good adult book, as well as a good graphic novel. And I'm also going to pop a little graph here of all the fall movies that I would recommend. I try to stay away from your classics or the ones that people mostly associate fall with. That being When Harry Met Sally or Autumn in New York or You've Got Mail. Those are all great movies, which again, I recommend, but I tried to offer you a little bit of different ones that I feel maybe are not talked about often. So I do feel like these here are great for the fall mood for many aspects, whether that is the fall setting in the movie or just the comfort, cozy feel that the movie feels like, or the moodiness. I love a good moody movie. If you haven't checked any of these out, please do. These are amazing. These are great. All right, now we are moving into country living. So the first question is, how has the adjustment to smaller town living been? Will you and hubby still buy a home? Is the place you moved to welcoming of Black and brown folks? And someone also commented under that comment saying, I'm so glad you asked this because I was curious too. With the climate of things, I'm curious to know what your experience has been in an area that is known to be conservative. I really love this question so much because I feel like when my husband and I were looking into making this change into our lives, there wasn't enough information about this topic out there, and that was a big concern for us, especially as people who are moving from a very diverse area to a more conservative and not as diverse area. So just to give you a little bit more context for folks who might be new around here, my husband and I moved to the countryside about 2 months ago already. We were living in the Bay Area. My husband was born and raised there, and I moved there maybe like 12 years ago. So we have both been there for a chunk of time, and we were ready to make the transition to something that felt more quaint, more calmer. It felt like it was something that we both really craved and needed. As much as we love the Bay Area and our families are still there, we were just ready to make that adjustment to our lives. And we were planning on purchasing a home. We were working with a broker to buy a house in the countryside, something that was within our price range, something that we felt comfortable with. But unfortunately, things didn't turn out how we wanted them to be. Right now, where we currently live, we live in California, the interest rates are just not great. Our broker told us in in all honesty that maybe if this is not the time for us, maybe we should wait. Maybe things might look a little bit different towards the end of the year as far as interest rates go. We took our broker's advice and we decided to wait. I should say though that when we were doing all of that and looking, my husband and I were living with my parents. We had been living there for 2 years and we decided to do that because we wanted to save to buy a house. It took us 2 years to be able to save for a down payment, and we were so grateful for my parents' help to allow us to move into their home and allowing us to have a cheaper rent as we saved money for our first home. So unfortunately, like I mentioned, we decided to wait to buy a home, and still we wanted to move out and have our own space. We just felt it was time to move out and make that transition. So we thought to ourselves, okay, if we are going to put a pause to purchasing a house right now, we should at least rent a home somewhere where we would have loved to have bought a house, or something that looks like the life that we would want. It gave us an opportunity to start looking around, and we thought that this was going to be a great way for us to actually see if this lifestyle was for us. Living in the country, there's a lot of work that goes into maintaining your home, especially if you have acres. I believe where we live has half an acre. There's a lot that goes into maintaining it, and especially us who are looking into being sustainable and growing our own things. There's a lot of work that goes into that. So this was perfect for us to try out and see if this was going to be something that we would want to do long term, especially since renting a home, there's like a year commitment or so. It's nothing that is stable compared to if you buy a house, you're kind of like stuck with it per se, I suppose. So we are most definitely planning on purchasing a home. That is our dream, but we are for sure enjoying this little stop here along the way into our path of buying a home. We have been enjoying smaller town living, to be completely honest. It has been life-changing to say the least. We enjoy the quietness, the peacefulness that comes with living in a smaller town. It has its perks and it has its not so great things. With smaller town living, there's not going to be a lot of access to a lot of things. Luckily, where we live, we have what we need locally, unless we're trying to look for something specific. We do have to travel a little bit out. Outside of that though, one of our main concerns was moving to a smaller town and not feeling safe. My husband is a Black man and I am Mexican. That was a huge concern for us before moving to a smaller town, especially considering that smaller towns sometimes equals to small-minded people. And coming from the Bay Area where it was so diverse, and don't get me wrong, you still have your small-minded folks even in the big cities. We just didn't know what we were in for prior to moving to a smaller town. We have, of course, visited smaller towns before. We have stayed at Airbnbs, and yeah, we've seen our fair share of things that made us feel unsafe. So we took all of that into consideration and we really averaged out the pros and the cons. And me and my husband had so many conversations about the lifestyle that we wanted to live, our fears, and really questioning whether this was something that we wanted to do. At the end, we decided not to let our fears interfere with what we dreamed to have. We did a little bit of research regarding the town where we were looking to move to, and some not so great things popped up and some other not so bad things popped up. So for us, it was really about deciding whether we wanted to give this a shot. And because we weren't buying a house, we felt a little bit more comfortable with just taking the shot and moving there, considering that we weren't subjected to having to stay here long term. If we didn't feel safe, we can always either break our lease, or after our lease is up, we can move elsewhere. So in the end, it ended up just working out that we were only renting for the time being. And to be completely honest, this little town has really surprised us. We haven't really came across anything where we're questioning our safety, or where we feel like we're threatened or we're being discriminated against. When I tell you guys that that was our main concern, it was at the very top of our list, we were concerned. We have had our fair share of racial encounters that has left us not going back to certain places in the past, to places we visited, but this town has really taken us by by surprise. Places that we have gone to so far has been great. We have felt safe going to the park, going to the store, and everyone has been welcoming so far that we have encountered. I will say, of course, with smaller town living, it's not as diverse. There is a pretty big population of Latino people here, not as much as Black folks though. And I suppose now thinking about it, even in the city, the Bay Area where we lived, we came across our fair share of racial stuff. So we're not unfamiliar to that, sadly. And here so far, we haven't came across that. But again, we've only been here for 2 months. So we're still continuing to test the waters and see where this journey leads us. At the end of the day though, we are just glad that we took the leap of faith and we decided not to let the fact that, yes, smaller towns tend to be more conservative. But for us, we really put into perspective. I mean, we can continue living where we're living, which is the suburbs, and we're going to continue experiencing here and there being discriminated against, or we can come to a smaller town where we will be living the life that we want to be living, and maybe we'll experience what comes with smaller town living and small-minded people. Maybe we'll experience that here as well, who knows. So we really averaged out the two and we're like, okay, it sounds the same. We might as well just go and live the life that we want for ourselves and see if that's something we're going to be able to cultivate, even if it's in a town that might not be as diverse. And again, we had the same worries, but again, at the end of the day, I feel like if you have a call for this type of lifestyle, I really believe that we owe it to ourselves to honor that. And I feel like more people of color have a call for that, but are scared of making this transition into spaces like this because they tend to be not as diverse. And I get that. That is a very valid reason, especially in today's world where there's so many injustices and things of that nature happening. It's scary to make these transitions, and we were both very scared. But I suppose our passion and want to be able to live with intention and live this life overpowered that fear. And we're so glad to be taking up space in a space that is not as diverse. I hope that answered your question. I don't know. I think I was babbling at the end there. So now moving on to witchy and spiritual questions. First question says, I personally would love to hear your vision of the path your writing will take you. Books. Will there be a witchy creation, your own journey perhaps? All current titles are reference to the genres of witches, herbal, spells, and potions, how-tos, etc. But a written vlog style of your daily life and beliefs would be captivating, cozy, and completely different from the usual books found in the metaphysical section. I love this question so much. So if you have been following my journey for a while, you know that I wrote my first debut book, Incantations Embodied, which I also illustrated. That released in the spring of last year, and I am so grateful for that. It is a book about healing. It is a book about reclaiming your voice. It is a guidance of sorts with lots of prompts and fun activities in there. I love that book for what it was. I would love to continue writing more spiritual and witchy books. I have a couple of things I have been drafting up, none that are concrete, to be honest. As far as writing goes, most of my energy has been focused on novels. I am currently working on a middle grade book of sorts, as well as a graphic novel. I have started outlining what these books might be about, but I definitely want to continue my witchy genre books. There's just so many things as far as writing goes that I want to create. I have a poetry book in mind as well. My brain is just all over the place. But after Incantations Embodied came out, my world really opened up to writing, and I became really passionate about writing my first novel, my first fantasy novel, as well as a graphic fantasy novel. So I've been exploring those sections, and you best believe that those are full of magic and witchiness and spirituality. So there are components of those aspects, even of my own personal journey as far as spirituality goes, embedded into those stories. I'm excited to see how those develop, but I love the idea of getting to write a witchy spiritual book in a vlog style format, in a sense, kind of like how I do my vlogs here for YouTube. I think that's such a great idea, actually. I would say that Incantations Embodied does have some aspects of that, though those are more so kind of like memories, things that I have gone through that really shaped who I am today. That is what Incantations Embodied is. They are reflections of my life, both hard and beautiful, that have really shaped who I am. There's short stories in there, poetry. It's a beautiful mesh of many things, but a vlog style format book that really focuses on just the everyday life of a witch, of someone who surrounds herself with her spiritual practices, I think would be beautiful. Who knows where this journey will take me as far as writing goes. But as for now, my energy is going into novels, is going into developing my fantasy books, which I'm so excited about. So even if you're craving some sort of witchy spiritual element that is very much a reflection of my own life, then maybe you have that to look forward to. Needless to say, my writing does not stop at Incantations Embodied. It is going to be a continuous thing that I'm excited to see where it takes me. Next question. I am a practicing witch too. How or when did you start your practice, and what are the practices you do for every day? I have been practicing my magic for over a decade now, and it has gone through its fair share of ups and downs. I've abandoned it, I've picked it up, I've been mad at it, I've been great at it, I've failed at it. I have done all the things with my practice, and at the end of the day, my practice has been a huge commitment and one of the most beautiful things I've ever done in my life that has really shaped my outlook on life. It has really shaped who I am. But as far as practices that I do every day, without a doubt, I talk to my altars. I currently have 2 altars. I have an everyday working altar and I have an ancestral altar as well. Without a doubt, I wake up in the mornings and I go and I speak to my altars. I turn on my candles. I light an incense. I dance, I sing to my altars, and that for me is awakening the energy of my altars. I think altars are a beautiful place for you to build your spiritual practices and work on your magic and have that connection to your magic. For me, my altars are my secret space. It is where I get to feel my magic radiate. It is where I get to go and speak to my ancestors. I treat my altars like they are living people, because that is what an altar is. It needs to be alive. And what do alive things need? They need the elements. They need water. They need food. They need warmth. So I really try to keep my altars alive by having candles burning, by having little glasses of water around them, by having plants around my altars. Those are some key components that I like to keep on my altars. So yes, every day I speak to my altars, in the morning as I rise and at night before I go to bed as well. And it could be just a regular conversation. It could be a good night. It could be a thank you for today. It can be one of your favorite little prayers or an affirmation. Treat it as a person. Have a conversation. Talk to them about how your day was. Or in the morning, talk to them about how you would love for your day to be. Every day as well, I like to anoint myself with a special oil. I love working with oils. I have a protection oil. I have an abundance oil. I have a variety of different oils that I like to work with. So every day as I rise as well, I like to anoint myself with an oil. I put like a little droplet on my wrist and I just kind of rub it around there, and I set an affirmation, whether it's to protect me for the day or bring me abundance or love or whatever the intention is. Not every day, but almost every day. I also like to take 5 minutes out of my day to just sit outside, breathe in the air, either meditate or just stare off into the abyss, look at a tree and not think about anything rather than that moment right there and then. I often feel like people think that a magical practice needs to be so complex and you need to have so many ingredients and you need to do so many things. But honestly, even 5 minutes out of your day every day will be just enough to where you just sit down outside, go touch some grass, close your eyes, listen to the birds, ground yourself, put your hands to the ground and kind of envision little roots coming out of your hands and into the earth. That's all you need. That is all you need to be able to build a magical practice. My practice by no means is perfect. I don't have all the tools, but just living with intention every day or trying my best to live with intention every day is enough for me to be able to practice my magic, to feel more connected to the earth, to my ancestors, to spirit. Your magical practice does not need to be complex. Make it simple, especially if that's all you can do right now. It doesn't have to be hard. Have you encountered anything paranormal? Haunting, ghosts, scary encounters, etc. I always like to hear other people's stories. Congratulations on your subscriber count. I really dig your content and sweet nature. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, this one isn't witchy or spiritual, but I just decided to put it in this realm because it's a fun question, and I feel like it kind of sort of goes, I suppose. I have never been a skeptic to when it comes to paranormal stuff. I grew up in a Mexican household, and we most definitely believe in ghosts, in espíritus, in all kinds of entities. I grew up with that knowledge that those are very much real things. So I was never a skeptic. I believed in all of that, but I had never encountered it until I was about, I want to say, how old was I? Maybe 19, 20, around that age. My family and I were living in a home that my parents were renting. That home always just kind of had a bad vibe to me. And my mom was really good that whenever we moved, she would cleanse the house. She would bring some holy water, she would cleanse it, she would do her prayers, she would burn all kinds of stuff. That to her was her cleansing her home. And she was so good about doing that. And we moved quite a bit when I was a kid. This home, however, when we first moved in there, it always had like that creepy feeling. And I don't know if it's because it was surrounded by so many trees that not a lot of light went into the home. It was always very dark in that house. Whatever the case might have been, it always just felt really just a heavy entity. It just felt really heavy in there. A few months in after living there, my mom started expressing to us how she just didn't feel comfortable there. She felt like something was swallowing her all the time. She just didn't feel good in that house. And shortly after, many of us who lived in that house, me, my siblings, started experiencing some weird stuff. I started experiencing a lot of sleep paralysis, which in my culture, they say that sleep paralysis is a ghost being on top of you while you're sleeping. So in Spanish, it's called se te subió el fantasma o el espíritu, something like that. So a spirit got on top of you while you're sleeping. If you experience sleep paralysis, you know how horrible it feels. This was my first time ever experiencing sleep paralysis. I had never experienced this before, nowhere where I had lived at all until we moved into this house. A few months later after that, my mom started getting really scared to the point that she started sleeping in one of my siblings' bedroom on the floor. My dad used to work overnights at this point, so he used to work graveyard shifts. So she didn't like to sleep alone. So she would sleep in my sibling's bedroom on the floor. It felt so bad because she would sleep with a whole bunch of little angels and little saints that she worships all over her as she's sleeping on the floor. She would have them laying all around her, kind of like a sort of protective barrier. One night when my mom was sleeping in my sibling's bedroom, I heard a loud yell during the middle of the night, as well as a huge thump. I rushed to my sibling's bedroom. My mom was crying on the floor, and I asked her what was wrong. She told me that something woke her up in the middle of the night, and as soon as she opened her eyes, she seen something sort of move through the window shutters and kind of move towards the closet doors. And the closet door, it was one of those closet doors that slide side to side. So the closet door opened and shut itself on its own. There were no windows open in this bedroom. Nothing could have caused this sort of movement in there. Sure enough, after that incident, we just started experiencing so much more other weird stuff. TV turning off and on, lights turning off and on, flickering. There was a time when I was sitting in the living room and the lights just started turning off and on very quickly. And there were many instances also when we had the TV on and then it would just switch to cartoons on its own, which kind of makes sense because my mom says that she had a really bad dream one time where these two kids presented themselves to her in her dream, and they said that they were the spirits that were roaming that house, and they were asking my mom to please help her because they were trapped in that house and that the bad man was after them. After we moved out of that house, because we moved out, our neighbor just randomly told us one time as we were moving out that someone unalived themselves in that house, and it was a man. Apparently that man unalived themselves in that house because they were hearing voices. Don't know if that's true. We just left. That house was so scary, whether they were children entities that were in that house or not. That house felt so heavy, so stagnant. It was such a creepy experience, but that has been the only time that I have personally experienced something paranormal per se. I've had some other spiritual encounters that I would say have been great, but as far as paranormal and scary, that has been the only one. Hi, congratulations. I found your channel in the spring and I find your videos really comforting and inspiring. I know you have an interest in tarot and have a tarot practice. Do you also have an interest in astrology? I'm curious if you know your your big three, your sun, moon, and rising signs? Would love to know. Thank you so much for your question. Yes, I had a phase where I was really into astrology and I loved it so much. And I think this is just because I just take an interest into so many things. I'll have my moments where I'm really into it, and then my Gemini brain, because I am a sun Gemini, just goes on to go and have another different interest. And then I lose interest in that thing that I was into. But yes, I had a big interest in astrology and I wish I would have kept up with that practice. I have a couple of astrology books that I love, that I learned some great things, but I am definitely no expert at all. I do know my big three, and I remember I had done some research on this because I was curious to know if some of these traits that describe these signs relate to me, and yes, they absolutely do. I would say that I don't relate to everything, but for the most part, a lot of the things that describe these signs and their placements are very much true. So my big three, I am a Gemini sun, I am a Capricorn moon, and I am an Aquarius rising. Let's just say that I'm a little chaotic, just a little bit. Congratulations on hitting your goal. You genuinely seem like a very healing person and very intentional with everything. I've always wondered what your go-to things are to do to slow down with intention. Honestly, one of the biggest things that I've done that has really made a big change in my life has been listening to my body. And as someone who does tend to be quite chaotic and lives in her brain so much, hello, my Gemini sun, listening to my body has really made such a big difference to not only being able to understand myself, but also catch things early before things start to crumble. Growing up, I was very much taught to work hard, to not rest, because rest is for the lazy. I was very much raised to uphold being a workaholic, and that did so much damage to me that I didn't realize how much it had done until I started to actually slow down. And I started to do this because I was diagnosed with a chronic illness. And as many of you guys know, I have struggled with infertility. I have PCOS. There was a lot of things that started popping up health-wise in my life that a big contributor to that was stress. Slowing down and being able to really pay attention to what my body is telling me, not only did it help me health-wise, but also it opened up my spiritual channel. It allowed me to see life through a different perspective, through a more slower perspective, where not everything needs to be rushed, where things just need time to marinate, where I can actually hear myself think. These days, you can most definitely catch me taking a nap at 2 p.m. Before, you would never catch me dead taking a nap during that time. I didn't even believe in naps. I put my body through so many hard things and I would punish it when it wasn't feeling its best because I had so many expectations for my body just to perform. And that is just not a good way to live. When I started to listen to my body, is something hurting? Am I feeling sleepy? Do I just need to take 5 minutes? Am I feeling anxious? Am I overwhelmed? And I would notice those things, whether maybe I feel like a tightness in my stomach and my gut, or maybe a tightness in my chest, or maybe my arm hurts or my leg hurts. Just pinpointing things in my body and listening to what my body is telling me really allowed me to just slow down. It really allowed me to conceptualize things, to really process things, whether it is a physical thing that I'm feeling or maybe it's a feeling. You guys will be so surprised at how much our bodies tell us what it needs. I didn't know that. I didn't know that our bodies speak to us through feelings, through a little tingle here, a little ache there, through cravings. There's so many things that our body tells us through emotions and all of these other little aspects that if we just take the time to listen, to really pay attention to how we're feeling, what I like to call is that is the language of our body. And that language is telling us what it needs. And when we can understand what our body needs, it makes things so much more easier to be able to just navigate life. So if you're feeling sleepy, prioritize that. If you're feeling overwhelmed, ask yourself, why am I feeling overwhelmed? Maybe sit with yourself for 5 minutes. Where is this feeling coming from? Pay attention to that language and see how you can help yourself. Prioritize your body. When we understand what our body is telling us, we understand our surroundings, we understand ourselves. That is what has helped me so much to slow down, to be intentional, to do things with purpose, because when I am able to slow down, I am able to just simply do things with more of a clearer head. You seem like a very intuitive person, and you do such a beautiful job articulating your thoughts and feelings. What is your advice for someone who wants to cultivate those traits in themselves? I feel like this question really goes with what I just answered as well. Again, slowing down and paying attention to the language of your body has really helped me understand myself. I am an anxious girly. I get very anxious very quickly. So knowing how my body works and how I tend to react to environments, to situations, and being able to support myself throughout that process really does wonders for me. So if I can catch those things and pay attention to my body's reaction, I then know how to help support it. Our bodies are so miraculous. They tell us exactly what they need when they need it. They tell us what is wrong. And honestly, it is simply up to us to just listen. I also have a very big desire of understanding as well. I am a very curious person when it comes to just understanding our autonomy and understanding our feelings. And I would say that that curiosity has definitely helped me be passionate about understanding myself and understanding feelings as a whole and emotions as a whole. So I take myself as a little experiment most of the time, and I ask questions as to why am I feeling like this? Did something trigger that? Or maybe I'm feeling tired. Why am I feeling tired? Did I go to sleep late? Is this not working for me? Is this schedule not working for me? Did I eat something that upset me? I am a very curious person, and I like to get to the root of things. So stay curious about your body. Stay curious about your emotions. Ask yourself. Again, I will not get tired of saying this. There is no better feeling than knowing yourself fully and wholly, and also understanding that we are ever growing and ever evolving. We're not going to know all the answers to ourselves. We're always going to be growing. So we always have to be open to learning new emotions, new things that may arise. So just stay curious, stay open to learning about yourself, listen to your body. And I really feel like that will help grow your intuition, because again, our intuition is that inner voice that's inside of us, right? Or at least that's how I describe it. It is that little voice that speaks to us. It is that gut feeling, or in my culture, as we like to call a presentimiento, a feeling. Our bodies know, our bodies speak to us. So when we take the time to just listen, stay curious, ask questions, you are going to be building your intuitive power very quickly. Last but not least, we're moving into the category of questions that have to do with my work, so that being art, YouTube, writing, etc. What made you decide to start a YouTube channel, and how has it evolved from your original idea's vision? Boy, oh boy, okay. So I started my YouTube channel many moons ago. I want to say maybe 8 years ago, around there, I started my YouTube channel, and it has gone through so many changes. But the thing that has never changed has been the fact that I just wanted to share my voice. I wanted to connect with like-minded individuals. I wanted to build community. I wanted to help people in some way or another, inspire people. And I don't know if this is the eldest daughter talking in me, because I've had to be that for my siblings, which was wonderful and great. Though that responsibility came with many ups and downs, I truly do love the fact that I guess I was chosen to be the eldest daughter and be that leader for my younger siblings. And so I suppose that kind of reflected into my creative work that I do. I wanted to help people. I wanted to guide people. I wanted to inspire folks. I wanted to build friends and community. That has always been the same. And that was the main reason why I started a YouTube channel. Now, when I first started a YouTube channel, I actually did tarot readings or oracle readings. That is how I started my YouTube channel. I don't know if there's any folks here who have followed me since then, because it has always been this channel. I never had other ones. It's always just been this one. But yeah, I used to share tarot oracle readings. They were called, I think, pick a card readings. So I would do 3 layouts of cards, and you have the choice to pick 1, 2, or 3. And then let's say if you pick number 2, then you would go to the timestamp of number 2, and that was your reading. There was a big moment in my life when I was really into tarot and oracle cards, and I still am, but my creative work for YouTube has really evolved since then to where I just want to share my everyday life and sharing the magic of every day outside of just divination. Slowly after that, I started sharing more what they were called studio vlogs. So sharing more of my art practice. As many of you guys know, I am an illustrator and a writer. So I started sharing a lot of what that looks like. Kind of like the vlogs that I do today. I would take you for a full day with me and you get to do all the art stuff that I'm doing, projects that I'm working on, and you could just get to see me in my studio packing orders. It was a cozy time. I loved it. And these days it's just kind of a mesh of everything. I used to think that I had to box myself into a sort of niche when I was sharing videos here on YouTube, and I am so happy that I've outgrown that and that these days I am sharing all aspects of my life, whether that's tarot, art, my witchy practice, my health journey, just everyday simple mundane life. It's all just intermixed into one. And the biggest lesson that I've learned from this YouTube journey has been that you don't have to box yourself in, or you don't have to create a niche for yourself. You can share everything and all that you love all in one platform. It doesn't have to be separated, because we're all very multidimensional people. We love a variety of different things. And I always found it hard to just box myself in a category, especially being a multi-passionate person. So these days, you get a mesh of everything from me. You get divination, witchy, health, art, slow living, you first-time gardener. You get everything from me here. I'm an artist, but I'm always scared to show my art because it's spiritual. It's hard to find my crowd, plus I'm autistic and have chronic fatigue. I get burned out fast and business courses are not working for me. I'm on that point of giving up my art dreams. Do you have any advice for me? Thank you so much for this question. I just want to say how much I see you. Being an artist, a freelance artist at that, is hard work. I know firsthand how it feels to want to pursue your dreams, but feeling limited because of financial constraint as well as chronic illnesses. Like I mentioned, I have a chronic illness. I actually have type 2 diabetes, and I have oftentimes struggled with fatigue. It has been such a hard journey to want to pursue my lifelong dreams while also battling with how much you are able to do because of your body. And I will say that we as individuals who create with such passion and have a need to just present ourselves and show ourselves, we oftentimes can be our biggest blockers, the people that hold ourselves the back the most. Outside of it just being physical, of course, which is very much reasonable, but also because of our fears, or the fear of what they will say, the fear of not being approved by the masses. But trust me when I say that there is a community for everyone out there. It doesn't matter whether your art is spiritual, if it is witchy, if it is fun, if it is dark, if it is funky, whatever the case might be, there is a community for everyone out there. And you're never going to be able to find your community unless you share your voice, you share your art. One of the best things that I've done in my life has been to just share my art. And yes, I struggled with those same thoughts. And it was the biggest thing that I had to overcome, was that fear. But at the end of the day, my need for wanting to build community, my need for wanting to honor my vision as an artist surpassed that fear. It doesn't mean that I wasn't scared. It just means that my want and need for wanting to share my medicine, as I like to call it, with the world was a lot bigger than my fear. I let it get bigger than my fear. I will say this with so much love in my heart: to not let your fear keep you away from sharing your voice, because your voice is needed. Your medicine is needed. I shared my art as a gateway to heal parts of myself, to heal the body dysmorphia that I've struggled with for so many years, to heal generational trauma, to heal so many aspects of my life. I did it as a gateway to just honor the need of wanting to heal and to put myself out there, which is what my body was telling me. And sure enough, it ended up connecting with so many individuals out there. And it just goes to say that when we listen to our bodies, when we listen to that calling, and we allow ourselves to just be, despite our fears, despite that little nagging voice in our heads that is telling us to be scared, when we allow ourselves the need to just share, the universe just has a beautiful way of putting people in your path that will resonate with that. And I really feel like that is magic in itself, because if you're feeling a calling an inkling to do something, that is not just because. I really feel like that's for a reason. And when we allow ourselves to figure out what that reason is, you then start seeing little signs sort of sprinkle into your life because you allowed yourself to be put in a situation where you receive. So in this case, if you allow yourself to just share your art and allow yourself to be seen, the universe will start blessing you with little sprinkles of people that resonate with your art. I know it's scary. It's a scary world, especially when you're battling a chronic illness. Listen to your body, rest when needed, but never let go of your dreams. Congratulations, AK is incredible. Thank you. I love to know how you juggle so many creative projects and how you determine which takes priority. Writing, illustrating, YouTube, homemaking, and hobbies. Let me just say that I am no expert in this and I am still trying to figure it out. I have so many interests. Like I mentioned, I am a very multi-passionate person and I'm still trying to find a balance where I'm able to do all the things that I love. I'm still trying to work out a schedule for myself and I'm slowly building that, especially now living here in the cottage where there is a lot more to do. I have been finding out that having a planner and scheduling days for certain things really helps me out a lot. For example, Mondays are my Patreon days where I just do Patreon stuff. Every day I try to illustrate at least for 2 hours from 8 to 10 in the morning. I try to get up as early as 6 in the morning to do a little bit of gardening. That really helps me sort of ground myself. I just feel a little bit more ready for the day when I've just done something so peaceful. And for me, that's gardening. And usually Tuesdays through Thursdays are my YouTube days, and that consists of filming, editing, doing the thumbnail, doing all those things. So that takes about 3 days. I'm trying really hard not to work weekends. I really believe in a work-life balance. Sometimes I'll work on a Saturday, but for sure not on Sundays. So again, I'm still trying to figure it out. Right now, what's at the top of my list is updating my fall art shop. So I've been doing a lot of drawing, so that is priority. Patreon is always priority and YouTube is always priority. Unfortunately, right now my writing is not at the very top, but I feel like during this fall season, I'm going to prioritize it again. I feel like I'll have more leeway during that time. So yeah, still working it out, still trying to figure out what works best for me. And last but not least, the last question here says, "Hi Kimberly, I'm so happy I stumbled upon your channel this week. We seem like kindred spirits. I'm also into witchy and bookish things, and I'm an artist and aspiring author. What is your advice for people trying to get into publishing their writing and illustrations? Manifesting 10K for you very soon." Oh, thank you so much. You are so kind. I really feel like all of us are kindred spirits here. My number one advice that really helped me out was just to share your work on social media. I know social media has so many ups and downs and it can be very exhausting, especially having to combat with algorithms, but there are so many beautiful aspects that also come with social media. I will be the first one to say that I have not gotten the opportunities that I have gotten, which has been to publish my own book, to work on book covers with publishers, to work on a tarot deck for a publisher. I would have not been able to get those opportunities if it wasn't because someone came across my Instagram and they got familiar with my work, and that is how they discovered my work. Yes, social media can be tedious. Yes, it can be very annoying, but also it can be very beneficial to being discovered, to getting beautiful opportunities, life-changing opportunities. I first started sharing my artwork on Instagram almost 10 years ago. My illustration is very, I would say, very spiritual focused, wellness focused. I would find similar accounts that sort of fell around the same genre that I was, whether they were art accounts or not. A lot of them were healers, doulas, herbal accounts. I've met so many wonderful people through these accounts and we would engage with one another. They would share my work. Allow yourself to be known. Allow yourself to interact with other people. Allow yourself to be seen. And a beautiful way that you can be seen is by sharing your work, sharing your art, sharing your medicine. Get involved with your community, especially those whom are similar to what you want to share, who have similar art as you or whose work you value. Just put yourself out there, allow yourself to be seen. It's scary. I know firsthand how it is, but there is just so much more goodness that comes out of it. I really hope that that answered all of your guys' questions. I want to thank you guys so much for all your questions. These were wonderful questions. Thank you so much for allowing me to talk a little bit about myself and talk a little bit about my background and to offer some insight into life behind the scenes, into my life growing up, into my art career, YouTube, all the things. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Again, thank you so much for 8,000 subscribers. I am beyond excited and happy for this community. I am excited for it to continue growing. I am so grateful to all of you who are here. I hope that you feel seen, loved, and safe in this space. Remember, friends, that you can create the life that you want because you so deserve it. I will be seeing you in another video very, very soon. Until then, take care and bye for now.